We see the theme of duty continuing to develop into Volume 2 of Berserk. Puck rescues Guts again in the beginning of Volume 2, but the interesting thing here is that after helping Guts, Puck inducts him into the categorical imperative by calling on his sense of duty. To quote Puck, Guts now owes him one. He could simply refuse to acknowledge this duty, but Guts actually pays it back, even though he has no clear reason to. He, in this moment, accepts Puck's invitation into Kantian ethics, repaying the debt and yielding to duty. And because he does so without any apparent satisfaction, his action could be qualified as being unequivocally good in the Kantian sense. Later, as Guts is led through the city, he's informed that neighbors, friends, even family have started accusing each other of being heretics during a religious inquisition. Society has broken down here, and the categorical imperative has ceased to function because of that. Friends and family no longer feel that they have a duty toward one another. They report each other for their own self-preservation. Confucius famously remarked that peace ensues when the king is the king, the father, the son is the son, etc. Essentially meaning that justice is when people respect their duty toward one another, when the son behaves like a son should behave, for example. These social connections have totally eroded, leading to a situation in which society cannot protect your life, thus ending the social obligation each person has toward everyone else. The social contract has been broken in a traditional Hobbsian sense, thereby disintegrating the categorical imperative to obey social duties. This is also, in a sense, the moral landscape in which Guts has hitherto been operating. When the physician Vargas doesn't answer Guts' questions, Guts kicks the walking stick out from under him. He doesn't feel any duty to respect old people. And yet, despite that, Guts is changing significantly by the end of this sequence. While fixing up his arm, he is thinking about Vargas, who's currently in trouble and needs help, and he can't get these thoughts out of his head. He's feeling a sense of duty. He would gain nothing from helping Vargas, and it wouldn't bring him any satisfaction. Yet, he does feel he has some kind of obligation to interfere in Vargas's unfair execution. Ultimately, he fails to act, but his mind is clearly comprehending the Kantian categorical imperative. When the axe finally falls, and Guts is struck with guilt, we see that he understands he's failed to fulfill a duty. His regret at having acted selfishly is a sign of his transition away from a selfish, Darwinian survival of the fittest worldview. Later, during his fight scene with the Count, Guts actually reveals an interesting ambiguity in the Kantian worldview. He shows us that it's kind of flawed. When fighting the Count, he uses the Count's daughter, Teresia, as a shield to defend himself. Can we say that he's violating Kantian ethics? Teresia is a stranger to Guts, in a place where we have already seen that all social links have broken down. They aren't family, friends, or even members of the same community. Does Guts have a duty toward her? Would Kant say that Guts must protect her simply because they're a member of the human race? This climactic moment causes us to wonder how far the Kantian concept of duty can take us when the normal social links have broken down to this extent. As Vargas earlier remarked, in this town, it's everyone against each other. Society has reverted back to the natural state of everyone looking out for oneself. After Guts releases Teresia, he starts punishing the Count by twisting a knife through his teeth. Puck calls him out for his brutish behavior, and there's a wonderfully ambiguous moment when Guts looks both pained by Puck's criticism and yet smiling vigorously as his knife twists into the Count. In this moment, Guts is straddling two different moral worldviews, pulled in one direction by Puck's call to humanity, and the other, Guts' desire to be the Nietzschean Übermensch, the one who is strong enough to control and self-preserve. The climax of this opening section comes when the Count is called upon to sacrifice Teresia in order to save himself. It is both the ultimate violation of duty, of what a father must be to a daughter, but it is also a test to see if, in the most extreme desperation, the Count can resist the temptation to self-preserve and act selflessly to save his daughter. The themes have so far been building up over the opening of Berserk to give us this final, most perfect dilemma of selfishness and selflessness, duty and death, or strength and survival. In the end, the Count chooses death. The imperative of duty is too great. Despite the darkness of this manga Berserk, Kentaro Miura reveals his optimism and hope. and the ability of humans to do good even at their lowest point. When the Count finally accepts duty at the expense of all self-interest, his appearance reverts back to when he looked like his past self. Teresia recognizes him as who he was, a father. Duty was what gave him an identity, and even in death he has at least that. Thus, at the end of this arc, exploring the moral landscape of the human world, Miura has, in my opinion, revealed his hopefulness, and showed us a moment of unequivocal Kantian good. The Count's return to his fatherly form symbolizes the restoration of social links that engender our sense of duty toward each other. Consistent with the Confucian concept of justice, justice is something that comes from above. Society is just when the king is good, and only when the king is good can the father be good, and only when the father is good can the son be good. If the king is not respecting his social duties, then the rest of the society is simply unable to do so. Previously, the Guts felt no duty to protect Teresia's life. She was a stranger. After the Count's sacrifice of himself, the Kantian categorical imperative is working again. The chapter finishes with Guts moved to tears by the girl's strength. We know he despises weakness, and he has seen a moving expression of Teresia's will to live. This being the moment when she is clinging to Guts' sword to prevent herself from falling to her death. Say what you will about the darkness and the despair of Berserk, but moments like these show me that Kentaro Miura is, at heart, hopeful that humans are worth believing in.